To the Greenhouse International, we welcome you. To the Greenhouse International, we welcome you. To the Greenhouse International, we welcome you. Here we go. Oh, how we love you so. This is a place where we go to grow. We welcome you to the Greenhouse. To the Greenhouse International. We welcome you. We welcome you. Yeah. To the Greenhouse International. We welcome you.
You in a dark place. Don't give up. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't give up. Don't get frustrated. Don't throw in the towel. Don't let nobody talk you out of it. You in a dark place because God needed a personal space to grow you, develop you, and mature you.
God, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Now we're getting ready to enter into a brand new series this month entitled Greater is Coming, and today's subtopic is Faith Don't Fail Me Now, the remix. Faith Don't Fail Me Now, the remix. While you're standing, remain standing until we get to the Word of God, which will be found in the book of Matthew chapter 14. In the book of Matthew chapter 14. Everyone now should be sharing the message and preparing yourselves to receive the Word of God. I am so excited about what God is doing in this house. I'm excited about the ability that God has positioned us in to be a blessing to our community and to our city. I love the fact that God gets all the glory. I don't want this to ever be about the pastor. I don't want this to ever be about us, but always about God's story. Greater is coming. Someone say, greater is coming. This month we're celebrating everything God has already done. We're embracing the now, and we're looking forward to the future because we're declaring collectively greater is coming. But in order for us to actively walk into the greater, we must declare faith don't fail me now. Listen, we walk by faith, not by sight. Therefore, the life of a believer can be summarized as a journey of faith. So I say I'm walking a journey of faith. Over the course of this journey of faith, listen to this, there will be seasons where our prayer will simply be, faith don't fail me now. Tell your neighbor, a faith that cannot be tested, a faith that cannot go through a testing season is a faith not strong enough to carry you into your greater. Because God has greater waiting on you, but you have to have a faith strong enough to carry you into your greater. Tell your neighbor, we got to have enough faith to get to the greater. And in order to get to the greater, our faith must be tested. And when our faith is tested, we advance to the greater. Don't panic when a test comes. Celebrate every test, because every test is another step toward your greater. I wish I had a hungry, aggressive crowd on this morning that made your mind up. There's more out there for me, and I'm going to release the faith to go get my greater. So listen to this before we get ready to get to the word. Matthew chapter 14. But I'll never forget these words of Tracy Martin. Tracy is the father of Trayvon Martin, and we all know who Trayvon Martin is, a young African-American teenage boy that was gunned down in Florida after the trial of George Zimmerman, who was acquitted, and acquitted simply means freed of all criminal charges. He kills this boy, and the system lets him go free. And Tracy, his father, makes this comment that I'm leaning on to for the rest of my life. Tracy says, yes, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, and I'm disappointed, but my faith can't be shaken. And we will continue to fight the fight of faith. If someone can gun down your boy and be acquitted, and you will have the audacity to say, my faith can't be shaken, and we will continue to fight the good fight of faith. That I'll inspire you this morning as we jump into the text of Matthew chapter 14. And I promise you, church, the bigger your dreams, the bigger your aspirations, the bigger the attack will come against you. But remember, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And if you dare to declare, Lord, don't let my faith fail me now, you'll see yourself get shifted to the greater. You ready for the word of God? Matthew chapter 14. Jump down to verse number 25. Jump down to verse number 25. The time is 11:40. We're going to try to summarize 36 verses in about 30 minutes or less. Pray for the preacher. Matthew chapter 14. Let's begin reading with verse number 25. After verse number 31, take your seats and let's journey into this greater is coming. Matthew chapter 14, beginning with verse number 25. Shortly after dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the water, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, Jesus said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But, verse 30 says, but when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. Paraphrasing, faith don't fail me now. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? Take your seats and let's take this journey of faith with Peter. Let's take this journey of faith with Peter. Jump back up to verse 22 for clarity of the text. In verse 22 it says, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat to go ahead of him to the other side. Jesus put his disciples on a boat. He heard some news and he put his disciples on a boat to go over to the other side. So that Jesus heard some disturbing news. The news Jesus heard was that his cousin John the Baptist. Anybody know who John the Baptist is? John came pronouncing the birth of Jesus. John came pronouncing a Savior is on the way. My first cousin Jesus is getting ready to come and save the world. But John is arrested not because he committed a crime. John is arrested because John is a bold believer. They throw John in jail, and Jesus gets the news that not only is John in jail, but now John has been murdered in jail. It reminds me of Sandra Bland. John was a bold believer. Sandra Bland was a bold black woman. Both ended up in jail for no cause. Both ended up dead in jail for no cause. And like Sandra Bland, we will always remember John's story because they came up dead in jail when they never should have been in jail. So when Jesus hears this news of his cousin being murdered in jail, he felt just like we felt when we heard the news of Sandra Bland being murdered in jail. It gave us an emotional draining period. Another one, we all said, another black person being killed unjustifiably. We wonder to ourselves, when will this ever end? So Jesus, he loved his cousin John, so now he's emotional and he's getting ready to go and get some rest and some peace. But on his way to get some rest and some peace, he runs into, watch this, 5,000 plus needs. Can you imagine? You get the news your cousin has been murdered. You're trying to go and get some rest, but only way to get some rest, you look up and 5,000 plus people show up with a need. Jesus could have said to his disciples, separate me from these people, these needy people. I got my own issues. Let me go get some rest. But instead, Jesus stopped and he fed the 5,000 plus people. He fed them spiritually and physically. Watch this, church. He fed them spiritually and physically. GHIC, I call this the Jesus church model of doing church. I don't understand, when did the church become so busy that we're too busy to do what Jesus did? When people celebrate us feeding the children, I say, excuse my Ebonics, but ain't that what we're supposed to be doing? When people say, thank you for blessing single mothers, I say, but ain't that what we're supposed to be doing? People say, you're doing a good job blessing the senior citizens. I say, ain't that what we're supposed to be doing? I don't understand, what did church stop doing what it's supposed to be doing? Don't celebrate us doing what we're supposed to be doing. Jesus was tired. He was going through an emotional situation, but he saw needs and he forgot about his own personal stuff and met the needs of the people, both spiritually and physically. Don't just preach to me, feed me, black man.
Father, I'm talking to the Lord this morning. We